Hello, Hammy time here, and in this video I'm going to introduce you to my two newest rescues, Millet and Noodles. Millet is a Robovaski and Noodles is a Chinese hamster, also known as a Chinese dwarf hamster. I'll start with Millet because we got him first. Millet is not his original name. We got him in February of this year off of Craigslist. Craigslist is a website here in the US where you can buy and sell things locally. I was on Craigslist looking for some equipment and I decided to check for hamster stuff while I was on there. I saw a listing for a robo hamster, but I didn't see an adoption fee, so I thought to send a message to the person just to let them know that an adoption fee would help prevent pets from ending up with someone with bad intentions. She immediately responded and told me that she was asking for a rehoming fee and she was selling the cage, bedding, and food as well. I let her know that I could offer her $15 for the hamster even though I wasn't really planning on getting a hamster at the time. I offered $15 because that is what robo hamsters sell for at the pet stores where I live. She immediately responded again and said, "Okay, can you come get him now?" I happened to be available, so I agreed to meet her in the parking lot of a grocery store near her house. When I buy and sell on Craigslist, I'm very careful and arrange to meet in public places. I try to bring someone with me and I'm sure to let people know where I'm going and when I should be back. When I met the lady, she handed me Millet and explained to me that she was in a big rush to rehome him because she had 3 cats and a little boy who wouldn't leave Millet alone. The little boy's grandmother had bought Millet as a gift without checking with his mother first. I'm grateful that she cared enough to make the effort to rehome Millet and not just let him suffer in that situation. So all of this happened so fast, I had to quickly set up a temporary bin cage for him. I grabbed a bin, wiped it clean, attached a water bottle, and threw some bedding in it. If you're familiar with my channel, you'll know that I use washable fleece and cotton jersey bedding. Normally I test the bedding first with each hamster before using it in their cage, but because I was in a rush to accommodate him, I used a bag of extra fleece bedding I had close by. My paper bedding was stored down in the basement and I would have had to go search for it. I put Millet in the bin and he immediately burrowed down in it and out of my sight. I decided to leave him alone for a couple days so he could adjust. The next day I purchased the largest bin I could find at Target. It's a 110 quart bin that is 460 square inches of floor space. I cut out a large window in the lid and made windows on the sides of the bin. I used wire mesh, also known as hardware cloth, and attached it with zip ties. It took me several hours to complete, but I got it all done in one day. I moved Millet into the new cage and I decided to check the bedding he had been in for a couple of days. When I check bedding, I look at every single piece. I had filled the bin with several inches of bedding, so that was a lot of bedding to go through. I will never make that mistake again. So I looked at every piece and I did find a couple of pieces with holes in them. I determined that Millet had tried to dig through them because the pieces looked scratched up and there were little balls of lint on them. The pieces may have been too large and obstructed his burrowing, so I can guess that he tried to dig through it. I thought to cut the pieces smaller, but I replaced the bedding with paper bedding instead just to be safe. I have to say that the paper bedding is much better at absorbing odors. Millet is a very stinky hamster and the paper bedding doesn't smell as quickly as the fleece. The paper bedding, however, is very dusty and I have to dust and vacuum the room more often now. So Millet is doing very well now. He really likes his food and treats and I can assume he likes the peace and quiet. I don't try to tame my hamsters but rather develop bonds with them if they seem interested. I haven't had a lot of time lately to work with him, but he will take treats from my hand. Millet is his favorite treat and that's how he got his name. I set up this burrow box for him because he really loves to burrow. I got the idea from Joy Georgina's channel. She had one for her hamster Sparky. I think that maybe Millet loves it a little too much. I have to bribe him with treats to get him to come out. We got Noodles, formerly Greg, from our local animal shelter in March of this year. My son had volunteered to do some community service there, which was a requirement for his school. We went there to talk to a volunteer coordinator, and while we were there, we walked around to visit with the animals. We got to the small pet room and they had one hamster available that was hiding in his hideaway. His card said he was a robo hamster, and because he didn't look like a robo in the picture, I asked if I could take a look at him. They handed him to me and I said, "This isn't a robo, this is a Russian Campbell's dwarf hamster." I thought he looked really thin and I asked if he was eating okay. Then he moved a bit and I saw his tail. I said, "Oh, this is actually a Chinese hamster." I started to feel really sorry for him. They didn't even know what kind of hamster he was. The lady asked me if I'd be taking him home, and when she said that, Noodles turned his head and looked up at me, and I said, yes. We brought Noodles home, and I did the same thing for him that I did for Millet, only this time I used paper bedding. I purchased another 110-quart bin from Target, and I made another cage in the same day. I tested out some of the fleece bedding by putting a handful of it in his cage. I would inspect it every morning for about a week. By the second day, he was sitting in it, just lounging. I took that to mean that he approved of it, and after inspecting it and not seeing any damage, I decided to put in some jersey cotton bedding after I cleaned his cage. Some of the reasons I like to use this bedding is because there's no dust, it's cost effective, and I have so much of it I can fill his cage up with as much bedding as I want. He has several inches of bedding to burrow in. The jersey cotton as well as the fleece is great for burrowing because it packs really well. This bedding is one of the ways that I reduce consumption and waste in my life. It is not something that I am trying to promote. It is simply the bedding that I use, which appears in my videos. So if you would like to try it, then please do so with caution and remove it if your hamster chews on it, and please watch my video about it on my channel before you try it. I would say that Noodles is more like a Syrian hamster because he sleeps all day and is up all night. Gimli and Millet are up at dawn and dusk, and sometimes you'll see them in the middle of the day or night. Noodles will let me hold him, but Millet has absolutely no interest in being touched. I think that Noodles simply tolerates it, but he doesn't really like it. I'm hoping that they'll become more social, but I won't push it. I think that respecting them as they are is the most important thing. My primary objective when I rescued them was to give them a forever home that they can feel safe and live comfortably. So the bin cages that they're in are temporary. Here is the current setup. I filled half of the cage with sand because Millet kept kicking sand out of his dish and Noodles' bedding kept falling into the sand. They both seem to really enjoy it. I have big plans for new cages for them that I've already started on. I'll be making a video of it to show what I've done. So until then, thank you for watching.